Obama did not present American principles on peace to force Netanyahu's hand, they would do so. At one level, I was not surprised. Much of my time, and that of other senior officials, was devoted to defending Israel from moves designed to single it out for extensive international criticism. Whether it was trying to head off a move at the Human Rights Council, or a critical political statement from the European Union, or a possible UN resolution condemning Israel, it seemed that this Israeli government was a lightning rod, and in constant need of our help. Like it or not, many of our allies were fixated on Israel's alleged responsibility for the enduring conflict with the Palestinians, and how this affected our collective position in the Middle East. Still, I was struck not only by the vitriol, but also by who was conveying it. These leaders prided themselves on being friends of Israel. Sarkozy and Merkel were publicly outspoken in this regard. Sarkozy had consciously dissociated himself from his predecessor, Jacques Chirac, and his demonstrably pro-Arab legacy. And yet here they were, seemingly holding Netanyahu solely responsible for the breakdown in the peace process, and for what they perceived to be the dire ramifications for the region of the unresolved conflict. I wondered if this was about Netanyahu, or if there was something deeper going on. Were attitudes changing toward Israel, with Netanyahu serving as a convenient pretext? I could also not help thinking about the irony of President Obama, who had been consistently vilified in parts of the American Jewish community for being too critical of Israel, being cast in the role of Israel's defender before our closest allies. I remained in the Obama administration until the end of 2011. During that time, I witnessed, and was often in the middle of, the constant pull and push in our relationship with Israel. There were moments of tension, even anger, between the leaders. Yet the areas of cooperation continued to deepen. Moreover, our support for Israel, even in tough budgetary times, was expanded. True, there was a congressional push for increased support, but it was rarely a case of having to impose it on a reluctant administration. After leaving the administration, I continued to travel frequently to Israel, meeting both with those in and outside the government, including the Prime Minister. I saw the rising concern about the delegitimization movement internationally, a movement fed by the Palestinian belief that this was Israel's vulnerability and therefore its own point of leverage. The United States remained the main bulwark against this movement, and although I understood that Israel needed to do much to help itself, I wondered whether we would continue to make the effort to stand with Israel. President Obama often said in my presence that whoever was in the Oval Office would support Israel, but that our influence on others would diminish. He pointed to votes in the UN General Assembly where, along with Micronesia and maybe Canada, the United States and Israel often stood alone. Was Obama right that we would continue to back Israel regardless of who occupied the Oval Office? I knew that a constituency within his administration was not enthusiastic about doing so. But I also knew that every administration I had served in, starting with the Carter administration, had such a constituency. Indeed, in earlier times, it had been far stronger. With the current efforts to isolate Israel internationally seeming to have more impact with our key European allies, could this constituency emerge stronger and redirect our policy? Was the trajectory of our relationship, which seemed to move in the direction of ever closer collaboration, even with presidents who did not have an instinctive attachment to Israel, bound to continue? The more I have thought about these questions, the more they seem to require a deeper look, particularly at a time when the Middle East is experiencing such upheaval. I say this even though I recognize that it is not new for Israel to be singled out in the international arena. After all, the UN General Assembly adopted the grotesque Zionism is Racism resolution in 1975. Resolution 3379 embodied the effort to reject and delegitimize Israel, led by the Arabs but supported by the so-called non-aligned movement, and backed by the Soviet bloc in its competition with the West during the Cold War. With the end of the Cold War, that era of ostracism and rejection of Israel seemed to be over. The resolution was rescinded, and, with the Madrid Conference in 1991,